Welcome to Logistics Business Conversations, where we talk with key spokespeople in the logistics industry about topical issues. Hosted by Peter McLeod, editor of Logistics Business Magazine.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. As always, it's my great pleasure to host this conversation. Now, it's well documented that there's a labour shortage. Even more acute is the growing skills shortage. Now, in our industry, those with technical skills are not only highly sought after, but also highly valued. In today's edition of the Logistics Business Conversations podcast, we'll be discussing the technical skills required to make a successful career in logistics and the training available to help achieve the necessary level of competence. I'm delighted to be joined today by Stefan Beke, who's well placed to comment on this topic in his role as Technical Training Coordinator and Senior Expert Technical Trainer from TVH University. Hello, Stefan, and welcome to Logistics Business Conversations.
Hello, Peter.
It's a great pleasure to have you here today. So I'm going to use your time wisely and jump straight into our topic today. So can you just give me a little introduction into what the technical courses in logistics are, the training courses?
Yes, absolutely. We see that the technical skills are playing a crucial role in ensuring the smooth and efficient movement of goods. As the logistic industry becomes increasingly reliant on technology, the need for employees with strong technical competences continuously grow.
How are technical skills crucial to the logistics industry?
The downtime of critical equipment such as forklifts can have a huge impact on the logistic operations. Forklifts are the backbone, you could say, and that makes the need for regular maintenance and quick repairs essential to minimize downtime and keep the operations running efficiently.
So we ran a little poll before we recorded this podcast, and we were asking, what technical skill do you think is the most valuable for a career in logistics? And I was wondering what you think of the responses. We've got only 10% said hydraulics, 20% said electronics, 30% said internal combustion engines, and 40% said forklift technology. Now, do those figures kind of represent the kind of inquiries that you're having?
Actually, they do not. We see that for the past decennium, a huge electrification process going through the industry. So more and more of electric forklifts are being used as they are more environmental friendly. So I could say that easily 80% of all the training requests that we are receiving from customers is about electrics, electronics, power electrics. So the poll is, to me, a bit surprising, actually, as we know that the field of expertise in electronics is actually one of the fields where most technicians struggle with.
So what are the types of technical courses available at TVH University?
So as we have so many different brands and many different machines, we actually had a close look to all the repair manuals, and we divided our trainings up in 4 different fields of expertise. So one of them being hydraulics, one of them being the internal combustion engines, and then we have electrics, electronics, and power electric. The idea behind it is that, for example, Ohm's law, which is an electric law, you could say, applies for any brand. It's a physical law. So we focus more on how to apply that on the different type of machines. If you want to check a potentiometer, for example, which could be on a joystick or on an accelerator, the way to do it is actually always the same. The values will be different from brand to brand, but the way to do it is actually always the same. So that's why we call it a generic training. It is not tied up to a specific brand or a specific type of machine. It actually applies for all.
I've long thought that a career in logistics, a technical career in logistics is a lot more rewarding than, for example, a technical career in auto manufacturing or auto servicing. I think the opportunities are greater. I think the variety of work is interesting. I think you're probably more customer facing as well. There are great careers to be had. I wondered how important this technical education is to help to help someone within their career and to grow their career?
I think there is one certitude you have when you do or when you engage in a technical career is that it will never be the same. Technology is evolving very, very fast. And as you made the comparison to the car industry, we see now the electric cars, the EVs, are very much hyped nowadays. But knowing that actually the technology already exists in the forklift industry for many, many years is actually quite interesting. So a technical career challenges you all the time because technology evolves so fast that tomorrow will not be the same as today. So definitely for people who are interested and find interest in learning new things, they will have the challenge they were looking for in the forklift industry.
I have to say, it seemed like a good career. You know, you've got your service van, for example. You're traveling around autonomously. Every challenge seems to be different from the previous one. I was wondering, what are the sort of skills in particular demand within the industry? And does that roughly reflect the interest that you have in your applying for your courses?
Definitely. You have what we call the hard skills. You know, you still will have to replace some tires, replace a mast, so purely mechanical things. But then you encounter an electrical problem. There is an oil leakage or a small repair that needs to be done on the electromotors, for example. Every maintenance, every repair, you face kind of a new challenge. So in that regards, I believe so that keeping up to date with the new technologies to reduce the downtime, which for the end customer is crucial actually, is one of the goals that are set for our technicians. Aside from that, you have to keep open communication lines with your end customer. You have to explain why certain interventions are needed. So it requires of a service technician also some soft skills, you could say. And the human contact is something that everybody appreciates. It's like the best of both worlds.
It's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes, for example, if you're talking about a service technician for a forklift truck company, they're such an important first point of contact, sometimes only point of contact between the manufacturer and the end user or the customer. As you say, those soft skills, those communication skills are absolutely important. So certifications and hands-on training, how can that help to boost career opportunities?
Well, certifications and hands-on training are highly effective ways to enhance a career in logistics, first of all, and also it contributes to the career advancement because it creates credibility and industry recognition. It's also a sign of skills development for new technologies. It proves also you have the practical experience, and definitely as a last point, it improves job security and promotion opportunities. So certifications is something that is almost always requested by our customers when they run through a training course.
So for my sins, I'm learning another language and I'm doing it exclusively online. Could I learn to be a forklift truck technician online, or is it important to have in-person training as well?
There are certain things you definitely can learn online, but the touch and feel for a technician is still crucial. And you have the practical side that you always will have to cover. The approach we had, which started with actually the COVID crisis, where training was banned for a while, we said that if you look at the training course, there is a theoretical part and there is a practical part. Now, the theoretical part, people travel quite a distance to sit behind a bench and listen to what the trainer tries to explain. So we said the theoretical part, we can perfectly cover it in a digital way. So we've opted to do it by e-learning, which is you can do it on your own pace. You can review as many times as you want to, but just an e-learning doesn't suffice to transmit the theoretical knowledge. So we offer a package actually, which is an e-learning, but always followed by a webinar, which is a live event. So it means the trainer is there. You can ask questions if you read something in the e-learning where you have some doubts about it or wasn't very clear. You can ask the trainer. And we had quite a particular approach in setting up these webinars, because I've attended many technical webinars, and most of them didn't achieve the goal that they have set out. The problem with most of the webinars I attended is they transmit the message, but not always taking into account the audience they will have in front of them. So if we see that the service technician, first of all, he doesn't necessarily want to be behind a laptop, seeing somebody talking or somebody talking behind some slide. What he actually wants to see is, how do you do it on a machine? So our approach was more like, I'm a service technician, and what do I want to see if I attend such a webinar? So that's where we differ quite a bit from many other training suppliers in how we bring digital training. It's a package. It's a part e-learning and a part webinar. And in the webinars, we will go on the machine and they will see exactly which manipulations we do on the machine to find a problem or to do a repair.
I've seen the expression hybrid learning models used. What does that actually mean, a hybrid learning model for technical education? And what are some of the benefits and challenges around this model?
A hybrid is actually, so as I explained before, we have the digital package, which covers the theoretical content, but of course, you're still lacking the practical side. So the hybrid learning would be that somebody takes on the digital package, so he learns all the theoretical stuff he needs to do to find a specific problem, and then he can opt to have a practical session where actually we welcome our technicians, the service technicians. It's just a meet and greet, like, nice to see you again. We saw each other in the digital way. Now that we are live, here's the machine. It doesn't drive, it doesn't live. Here you go. Try to put in practice what you have learned. And we will guide them through the process, how to do it. And it actually brings a bit the best of both worlds. We don't take actually the service technician that much time out of the workshop to cover the theoretical content, because he can do it on his own pace. So a webinar normally takes about 90 minutes. So he still can work in the workshop or be on the road, and he just comes for a reduced number of days, but it's 100% practical then. So the hybrid learning is becoming more and more popular because it reduces travel time, it reduces transport costs, hotel costs, and still they acquire all the competences they need to progress in their job.
And this would all take place at your facility in southern Belgium, is that right?
Actually, there we also took some steps. Pre-COVID, most of the trainings were offered here in Belgium, but now to get closer to our customers and to meet their needs, we also go and can do the practical trainings at their premises. So actually the customer can choose, I can go for a full classroom training, or I go for just the digital package. For example, we have customers from Cameroon, and it's quite obvious that it's a bit expensive to send the service technician over for 1 or 2 days practical training. So they have an expert in their company, and they say, okay, our expert will cover the practical side, which is perfectly fine. But sometimes customers also ask us to come over to their premises and do the practical training at their premises, or sometimes even the full classroom training.
So what sort of role would you say TVH University could play in shaping people's technical careers?
Well, I think, Peter, one of the mottos of TVH is TVH keeps you going, and that's where we believe very strongly in. So the idea behind the Technical Training Center is that if we help our customers to build their business, to grow their business, to have very well-skilled engineers, it's also beneficial for TVH. So that's why we fall under the customer services department, where actually we try to uphold our promises to keep you going.
You must have some success stories along the way, Stefan. So can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, I will be glad to, Peter. One of the things we have noticed is that companies struggle a bit to find out exactly what training they should go for, what training is really required for that specific service technician. And it's all about determining the competences that you already have and where you want to upscale. So that's why we took that challenge up and we said, okay, we will develop a tool that will actually visualize the competences that you already have in-house and how we can upscale them. So we developed a competence test. It's an online test, so we send just the link through to the customer. The service technician runs through the test, and that enables us to see this is known, he knows it, he knows how to do it, so that's perfectly fine. He doesn't need to go for that training. Next one could be, he knows something, but there are still some gaps. So that's the training that we would advise. And expert level, for example, there's no interest in putting him in an expert level training if some knowledge is already missing. So sending these tests out to our customers, being able to put up a skill matrix, we can actually develop a personal development plan for each service technician, because one service technician is more skilled in, let's say, internal combustions, and another one is more skilled in hydraulics. So you cannot roll out, let's say, a service training program the same for every service tech. And the success story we had with that, we have really big companies, like there is one company, Aertsen, over 160 technicians. They've said, okay, let's do this competence test so that we can clearly see what the skills are that we already have in-house and where we need to upscale. And it was actually a very interesting test. It enabled us to see that, for example, they have different agencies, that at one agency, they had only one hydraulic expert. That means if that guy falls sick or worse, leaves the company, they will have a huge problem there. So they decided, okay, we should have at least one backup, one expert level backup in each agency. And we did that for Aertsen, we did that for Farah, we did it for C Invest, and the results are actually amazing. They see an overall reduce of downtime of more than 30%, for example, which is quite astonishing numbers. So it's something we are very proud of. It's something we see that is increasingly in demand, because you develop actually a personal training program for each technician. And it's something we are very proud of.
So if I were an entry-level, school-leaving age person looking for a technical training, or if I was perhaps in some other parallel technical job looking to get into logistics, or indeed if I already felt like I was somebody who was experienced, there's always going to be a course tailored for me.
Absolutely. And over the past, I can almost say 20 years, I always hear we are looking for very high-skilled service technicians. We try to find them. They are very hard to find because there is a shortage. Now, I tend to reply to those people, instead of looking outside of the company for this high-trained, highly skilled service technician, look inside the company. Look at the guys you already have. They are there. You just need to train them, motivate them, and you will develop your own highly trained, highly skilled engineers.
I have to say, given the choice between taking an engine out of an Audi and sending it in a box back to Germany, or approaching a forklift truck that's sadly died, I think the challenge of the forklift truck would be far more engaging for me than the sending in the box of an engine. So we talked about the past and how things have been done, and it's really difficult, I know, to predict what the future holds. But where do you see training developing over the coming years?
Now, what we see is an increased focus on automation and robotics. So definitely there is a high challenge there, which in the future will require high-skilled, high-trained engineers. Also, the integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning will bring us new challenges. So that's something I'm looking forward to, actually, for the future. There is more and more also an emphasis on sustainability and green logistics. So that will definitely also have a fallback on our engineers. And if I look at our business in training, virtual reality, augmented reality in training is something we will use more and more, where people are getting more used to it. The younger generation find it as a fun way, or they experience it as a fun way of learning, which for us, it was different. Also, the rise of blockchain and supply chain security courses, I think, will become more and more important.
So when I look at a typical automated warehouse today, and I see conveyors and shuttle systems and AGVs and AMRs, in fact, I was in one yesterday. I didn't see a single forklift truck, which kind of made me slightly sad. What are the typical skills technical skills that you'll be training technicians on in the future?
I think and we already see it actually today, the increase of knowledge in electronic will be only on the rise. Also, the use of software packages, programming, even PLC will be more and more perceived as a standard, actually, and not as a specific skill.
I was interested in what you were saying. If I could just turn the clock back a few minutes, you're talking about using VR as a training tool as well. I've seen VR used to good effect in the field, where there's been a technical issue with some automated equipment in a warehouse, and by dialing into the supplier of that technology and using the VR goggles, there's a support person that can talk the technician through the challenge and have a real-time display giving indication where to turn the switches, where to find the problem. Is that sort of where you see technology helping technicians in the future to solve ever more complicated problems?
Definitely. I think the integration of VR or AR will be first noticed as a help desk service. When a technician encounters a problem where he cannot find out immediately the source of the problem, he can dial into a service desk and gets help from an expert, which actually would be like an extra set of eyes looking with him at that specific machine. So definitely in service desk services, we will see the integration of VR and AR quite soon, I'm expecting. For training purposes, it will be a little bit the same story, although we can run a little bit behind if you compare it to the service desk, But every training center that respects himself a little bit knows that for the future it will become a standard almost.
So Stefan, you'll be glad to know that we've received a few questions from our readers, from our listeners. When we published that we were going to be talking to you about this subject today, we're delighted we've got some questions coming in, and some of which you've already covered. And I think the first one you've covered in part, because it's asking how can technical training help me avoid equipment breakdowns and downtime. And the headline that I picked from what you were saying before, from one of your success stories, was that you've reduced downtime by 30%. So are you teaching sort of predictive maintenance as much as you are with how to fix stuff?
Absolutely. And actually, we noticed that when we receive training requests from all over the world. Many breakdowns are due to maintenance, and the companies are actually really asking for this preventive maintenance. Let's not wait till the machine breaks down. Let's avoid it in the first place. So preventive maintenance is definitely a big part of the training program.
We talked about hybrid courses as well, and how perhaps things have developed during and post COVID. The next question relates to that. Is it possible to develop strong technical skills through online courses, or should I focus on hands-on training? I think you've covered that, but is there anything else you want to add on that sort of hands-on versus online?
I think we did cover that indeed. I strongly believe that it's not an or this or that. It's more an and story. You can do digital trainings and you can cover the theoretical knowledge, which you definitely will need to do a quick and proper repair. But the touch and feel for technicians is very important, and to do it for companies is always more important than knowing to explain how to do it. If you ask companies what is more important for you, it's actually not a question. They want them to do it. So it's an and story for me, definitely.
Now, we haven't really got time for a third question, but I like it so much, I'm going to ask it anyway. And it's, again, sort of talking about the future of technical skills within the logistics area and the rise of automation. So the question is, how can I learn, what skills can I learn to future-proof my logistics career? I may be out there for the next 25, 40 years. So, what is it you could teach me that's going to make me invaluable to any organization?
Well, like we said before, the demand for electronics is on the rise. Electrification is a process that will be more and more developed in the future. So definitely, if you're looking for a future-proof build-up of your career, I would say have an open mind. Go into electronics. It will be on the rise, and that will be your guarantee for a long and a very interesting career in the logistics.
Now, you said earlier, Stefan, that TVH keeps you going, and I can keep going all day speaking about this important topic. But I noticed that the clock has ticked on remorselessly, as it tends to do. And so we've reached the end of our allotted time. So it just remains for me to say thank you, Stefan, very much for your contribution today. I sincerely hope that with your sterling efforts, we can take a forward step towards plugging this technical skills shortage. And I also want to say thank you to TVH University for supporting us for this edition of Logistics Business Conversations. And thanks, as always, to you, the listener, for joining us today. Wherever you get your podcasts from, please subscribe to Logistics Business Conversations to make sure that the next edition is delivered straight to you as soon as it's released. So until then, it's goodbye from Stefan.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you, Peter, for the invitation.
You're very welcome indeed, Stefan. And it's goodbye from me, Peter McLeod. Goodbye.